Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to our Traffic Council meeting for November 20th. I'll just begin with introductions of the Traffic Council voting members. My name is David Kozis. I'm the Transportation Coordinator from the Public Works Department. Other voting members of Traffic Council that I see at the beginning of the meeting are Captain Devine from the Traffic Bureau and our citizen representative, Mitch Fishman. I believe that we're going to be joined soon by Ned Codd. He is the Director of Transportation for DPW. And I'm not sure if we're going to be joined by our fifth voting member, which is one of our city councilors. Usually it's Councilor Downs. I do see Councilor Lipoff. Are you going to be voting tonight?
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay. So these are the five voting members tonight of Traffic Council. I also see at the beginning of the meeting, we're joined by Councilor Baker from Ward 7 and Councilor Farrell from Ward 8. I also see Hannah Sternberg from the Planning Department. Our outreach coordinator will be also joined by other members of Traffic Council, I believe, later on in this meeting. So for now, we'll begin with our first item of the evening. And our first item is TC 4925, Councilors Farrell, Kalis, and Lipoff, requesting consideration of a stop or yield sign at the T intersection where Jacobs Terrace intersects with Hartman Road to establish right-of-way. Note that this item requests a stop sign only on Jacobs Terrace, not on Hartman Road in either direction. So we'll begin with a brief presentation, and then I'll open it up to public comment, and then hopefully we'll get to a vote by the members of Traffic Council. So this is the location that we'll be talking about today at the intersection of Jacobs Terrace at Hartman Road. Here's a view looking, this is a view looking south toward Hartman Road. So this is Jacobs Terrace. You see Hartman Road right in front of you and also to the right. Here's a view of Hartman Road. You have Jacobs Terrace coming over to the left. Hartman Road continues over toward the right. So this is a T intersection. There's no stop sign right now in any location. And we get these types of requests for stop signs, several times a year here at Traffic Council. So when it comes to a T intersection like this, it's not necessary, it's not required to put in a stop sign. There's actually no warrants that we look to. There's no warrants that apply. A stop sign is allowed. There's no reason not to install a stop sign at a T intersection. Typically, when these items come before Traffic Council, we do tend to approve them. And so the recommendation for this item is to approve this stop sign at this location. We do have the language before us that we need to be able to vote on. And that, I believe, Danielle, would be TPR 1004, right?
No, 1003.
Oh, everything's going to be misnumbered for the rest of the night for me. Okay, so
I'm going to double check that though, David.
Okay, do you want to double
now? I'm looking right. I'm doing it right now. If you want to just give me a moment.
Okay. I can also double check it.
All right, you can continue.
This will just take 1 second.
Yes, 1003.
You're right. You're right. Okay, so this would be TPR 1003 to approve the stop sign as it's shown on this slide, slide 12. So that's the presentation we have for this item. I'm going to open it up for public comment now. If anyone from the public wishes to speak on this item, if you could just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Richard Levy. And Danielle, you might need to help
Oh.
him. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, my name is Richard Levy. I live at 30 Jacobs Terrace. And I live basically on the, if you go back to that slide, for the first slide.
This slide.
Essentially, I live on if you're coming up Jacobs Terrace, it's the only house on the left-hand side. There's about five houses on Jacobs Terrace. So in theory, having a stop sign there, I don't really have an issue with it, except for the fact that it actually really won't solve anything. If you were to stop at that corner of Jacobs Terrace, you have to keep inching out because it's a blind dog leg to the right in order to see traffic coming up Hartman Road. Putting a stop sign there is going to affect maybe 30 cars a day. The real issue with the dangerousness of that intersection is cars going south on Hartman Road, coming up Hartman Road, and going wide on the corner because they can't see, and cars going north on Hartman Road, going down the hill, cutting the corner because they can't see. So those cars tend to want to crash into each other. Jacobs Terrace actually doesn't impact that at all. They have put in a double line since they repaved Hartman Road, which may be helping. The other thing that actually would be a benefit to Jacobs Terrace is that if the dead end sign was put on the opposite side of the road, currently right now, for 7 months out of the year, it's shielded by a reasonably large tree and people can't see the dead end sign on Jacobs Terrace. So if you go back to your first slide, maybe slide number 1. Yeah, right there, sorry, right there. The stop sign is right in the middle of that. You can see there's a dead end sign, and it's underneath the tree. So people going up Hartman Road think that it's a straight road, they miss it, and then they go up Jacobs Terrace.
Okay, thank you very much. I made a note of that. That's not something the Traffic Council votes on, but it is something that can be handled by staff. And so I made a suggestion to have our transportation superintendent take a look at that probably next week, one day. Other comments from the public on whether or not to add a stop sign at this location? Okay, let me just quickly see who else has joined the meeting. So, okay, so we're joined by Zach Linnell from the Planning Department, the Long Range Planner. We're joined by Margot Spiller. She is the alternate citizen representative for Traffic Council. And I thought that I saw Ned Todd from a voting member. And so we have Ned Todd. Also, I see Nora Colello from the Planning Department, the senior planner. I think that might be everybody. Other comments on the recommendation to install the stop sign. We do view this as a small safety increase. It's really meant to just reaffirm who has the right of way, that the Jacobs Terrace vehicles need to stop before proceeding. Councilor Lipoff.
Yeah, I think that that's why if Mr. Levy doesn't mind, because he does live on the street and know it quite well. There's only a few houses there. If you're good with this, exactly what Mr. Kosis just said, that it's a natural stop that you must, if you go straight ahead, somebody's going to hit you coming up Hartman. So it's just a reminder. And so I think it's a good thing to do, and I definitely appreciate the fact that we can get that dead end sign moved to a much more visible place. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councilor Lipoff. I agree. I think that these two improvements would be, wouldn't hurt anything, would be beneficial. Any other comments, or would anyone, Mitch?
Yeah, I agree with Council Lipoff. I think it would be a help. I was also thinking, as Mr. Levy was talking, that in addition to the dead end sign being more visible, maybe there's some street markings. Maybe Ned Cod could look at that. That would provide some kind of guidance, or at least advise people that that intersection needs a little bit of focus by drivers. Again, I'm saying that in a vague way because I have no idea what it is, but I often come down, from Brookline, and you sort of pick up speed, although you don't realize you're doing it. There's a curve, and then pretty soon you're going through that intersection, and maybe there's some markings or signage or something else that could slow people down.
Thank you, Mitch. Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the language of TPR 1003 to add the stop sign as shown on slide 12. Any last comments? Okay, Danielle, can you please call the roll?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0. It's TPR 1003.
Okay, great. So all we need to do at this point is wait for our 20-day appeals period, which brings us to December 10th. I don't anticipate that anyone's going to appeal this vote. Assuming no appeal, then after December 10th, we would be able to work with DigSafe, make sure that it's safe to install the pole, add the new stop sign. It should be installed hopefully by mid-December. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next item then. So our next item is TC 5525, Ned Cod, Director of DPW Transportation Division, requesting to eliminate 4 parking meters on the north side of Beacon Street between the St. Jude Gate and Hammond Street, and to prohibit parking on the north side of Beacon Street between the St. Jude Gate and Hammond Street. This would be a rescission from the June 12th Traffic Council meeting. TC 2125, Adrian Ayala, Transportation Engineer, requesting to add 4 new parking meters on the north side of Beacon Street between St. Jude Gate and College Road. Okay. Here's the location we're talking about on Beacon Street near BC. This was a slide from the June 12th meeting where we discussed this item when we were going to add 4 new metered parking spaces. It shows Beacon Street looking to the east. Here was the pavement marking plan that was developed in order to add 4 new, to improve the bicycle lane here and add 4 new meters, which are shown in the rectangle. So the recommendation at that meeting in June was to approve this request, and this was the technical language that we voted on at that meeting. Basically, we added a metered parking zone at that location, as shown in G on this slide. So here is a current photo that was taken that shows the conditions that are in place right now. You can see the metered spaces. Hopefully you can see this cursor. These are the metered spaces and the left turn pocket, which is a little bit shorter now than it was before, and the through lane and the bicycle lane. And what we immediately observed was that vehicles are regularly, every cycle pretty much, traveling over the double yellow line to get into the left turn pocket. So, I mean, I just stood there for 5 minutes and, every cycle I saw this happening. So I think that there was consensus that these 4 new metered parking spaces really were not worth the sort of changes that occurred in terms of moving traffic. And so now we are recommending to undo the newly installed meters. We're recommending to approve the docketed item. And we would be removing these 4 new meters, 345 through 348. This is the technical language that we would be voting on at this meeting, basically to undo the vote from the June meeting and add back exactly the language that we had before. So that is the presentation, and I guess I could start with you, Councilor Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Director of Transportation and I and the other Ward 7 Councilor, Large Councilor Laredo, took a look at this situation with the Director of Transportation some weeks ago and came to the same conclusion that this was a difficult situation that was causing more potential harm than good. And I think that their removal would be certainly warranted in this context, and I urge the council to support it.
Thank you.
I've heard from citizens also who expressed similar support.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Jesse, if you could just say your address, please. Jesse, Corey, maybe you need help to unmute.
So hello, my name is Jesse Corey and I live at 64 Oak Cliff Road. And I am suggesting that the traffic council deny this item for many reasons. One of the reasons I suggest that you guys deny this item is because of the reason that this item was originally approved in June, which was to shorten the left turn pocket, because there are not that many vehicles that use the left turn pocket and use the through lane. But in addition, I also do not want these 4 new meters to be removed because parking seems to be a very critical thing at Boston College. And if you take a drive or a walk around the area, you can see like every space taken up, and it's very hard to find alternate parking. And I also do not want to see scratches to the pavement, or I don't want to see scratches on this brand new pavement. And this brand new pavement looks very beautiful, so it would be such a shame to see it scratched again. And also looking at the conditions right near St. Jude Gate, I actually think that more parking spaces can actually fit legally within our city ordinances just to the east and west of St. Jude Gate. And so I would suggest adding more parking spaces right near St. Jude Gate, and maybe even add a little more parking spaces and even further shorten the left turn lane, because the left turn lane eastbound on Beacon Street is much shorter than going westbound on Beacon Street. But if there is a problem of vehicles crossing over the double yellow, then maybe what we should do instead is put down flex posts right on top of the double yellow, so as to help discourage that from happening. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Jesse, for that comment. And I see we're joined by Councilor Bixby from Ward 6. Captain Devine, you're next.
I went down to that scene a few weeks ago and spoke with the BC people. They too are in favor of removing these 4 spots, as well as myself. While down there, like you say, Mr. Kosis, we saw cars going the opposite side of the lane. Those 4 spots are kind of insignificant to the overall issue of parking down there. What it does is forces a long backup on Beacon Street and people going the other side of the lane. So just to let you know, BC does support the removal of 4 spots. You think contrary, but they want the 4 spots removed too.
Thank you, Captain Devine. Counselor Lipoff.
I'll move this when ready.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve the language of TPR 1004 as shown on the slides, slide 21 and slide 22. Any last comments? Seeing none, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0 TPR 1004.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Danielle, just for my records, the previous vote for 1003, was that 5-0?
5-0, yes.
4-0? Okay, thank you. Okay, good. Moving on. Our next item is TC 4325, Counselor Downs requesting to create a no parking zone any day, anytime restriction on the west side of Bristol Road between the last driveway and Commonwealth Avenue. This is the location that we're talking about, Bristol Road, near Chestnut Street and Commonwealth Avenue. Here is a view of Bristol Road, and I wasn't exactly sure what this was requesting. I went to take a look. The request was for no parking between the last driveway and Commonwealth Avenue. So I noticed that the last driveway was a circular driveway. Here is Commonwealth Avenue, the carriageway. I wasn't sure exactly what was being requested, where the no parking zone would begin. So I have two different options that I'm presenting here. One, if the idea was to put a no parking here to corner at that location, let me go back. So over here, you know, this would be option one, to put a no parking zone near, I guess, the southerly apron. And option two would be just before, I guess, this northerly part of the driveway. So if this was the idea and a no parking zone were to be installed right there, it's 55 feet north of the carriageway, the way that we measure it. And if the idea was to put the no parking zone near this driveway, that's 145 feet north of Commonwealth Avenue. So the options that I prepared for this item is either to deny the request or to approve the request. We want to hear from the public. We did get a couple emails. If we were, you know, to approve it, we would need to decide if we're approving option one or option two or something else, right? Option one would be, in our technical language, to install the new no parking zone 55 feet north of Commonwealth Avenue. Option two would be installing the sign 145 feet north of Commonwealth Avenue. So, okay, so Councilor Lipoff.
Just a quick question, if we can go back to the picture. There's no parking within 5 feet of a drive, right?
Right.
So that island in the U-shaped driveway there probably isn't, is that not big enough for a car to park anyway? So putting the sign back there, would that be kind of a waste anyway? I don't know.
Well, yeah. So the way that I calculated this sign, this no parking here to corner sign, is 5 feet from this driveway.
Right.
I figure you can't park here anyway.
That's my thought. Yep.
5 feet from this driveway or 5 feet from this driveway.
Right.
So then option two is 5 feet basically from this driveway.
So, okay.
Okay.
It's further away, but it just captures one more parking space, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So even today, with parking allowed, if you park in between the two driveways, you could receive a ticket for parking within 5 feet of the driveway.
That's right.
Right?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so after I prepared the presentation, we did get 4 emails on this, which I'm going to sort of summarize as part of the public comment. The first email was from Holly Vara. She is the last driveway on Bristol Road, shown in the photo. And this email says, I would like to state that I have no objection to anyone parking in this area, and I don't see a need for a no parking zone. Then we received an email from 350 Chestnut Street, which is the second to the last driveway, second to the last on the west side of the corner of Bristol Road and Commonwealth Avenue. So Henry Vara says, I do not see the need for a no parking zone at the end of the road. I've lived on the street longer than any other resident, and I've never witnessed any type of parking issue at this location. Then we received an email from Scott Aran, who says, please adopt Councilor Down's request to create the no parking zone, any day, anytime restriction. This common sense improvement will provide greater visibility to motorists traveling southbound on Bristol Road, allowing them to clearly see the eastbound walkers, runners, and cyclists. And then we received an email from Jane Hanser, who I think I just saw join the meeting, who strongly supports the measure and clarified that the request was for option 1 to add the sign right here as shown right there. It would be 55 feet north of the carriageway. So we have 2 emails from direct abutters that are opposed, and we have 2 emails from other residents of Newton who are in support. And so now I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone who wishes to speak on this item, if you could just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Holly Vera.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I understand that the concern is for people on the carriage lane and you can't see them, but there's barriers at the end of my street that stop people, that stop walkers, that stop bikers. So I don't really see the need for a no parking sign at the end of my driveway.
Right, thank you. I did take a picture of that, but it is true. So if you're traveling down the carriageway, you come to Bristol Road, and right in front of you are 2 barriers with access, I guess, bicycle and pedestrian access in between the 2 barriers.
Yep.
Vehicles would need to turn either left or right onto Bristol Road onto Commonwealth Avenue.
And I'd like to say there's a stop sign. So people stop at the stop sign. I pull out every day and there's a stop sign there. And the people that are coming down the carriage lane, in what direction? I think that's going west. If you're coming down the carriage lane going west, you see the barriers in front of you and they go left or they go right. I've never noticed any hazard.
Okay, thank you. Can I just ask you, would you mind if I ask you a question? Now that we recognize that the request is for what's shown in this photo,
Yep.
on the other side of your driveway, but a new sign between your driveway
Yep.
And the Commonwealth Avenue carriageway, basically so that nobody parks right there,
Yep.
right at the end of the road. Would you be really strongly opposed to that, or you don't have an opinion either way?
No, I'm opposed to a no parking sign in front of, in that area, and also in option number 2.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jane Hanser. Hi, Jane. And Jane, you're muted, so you might need help to unmute.
Okay. Hi. Thank you, David. I have seen a number of vehicles parked there. I have called a number of times to actually have them ticketed because they are blocking. I submitted a couple of photos, but of different vehicles at different times. I've seen vehicles that I haven't taken photos of. And that includes when we've had special events there. People want to get as close to the special event as they can. And what's this? It's not allowing, okay, I'm just gonna say, okay. You can hear me?
We can hear you, Jane.
Okay, and I have, I was hosting a special event there, and people came in their cars and parked as close to the barriers as they could, actually blocking the 5-foot opening, because they wanted to get as close as they could to where we were. So I hear people saying nobody ever parks there, but I've seen it numerous times, and I think whenever we're going to have a special event and we're talking about another special event, possibly this spring, people are going to try to park there. I've seen people park there in the snow. And, there's another issue, which, because you can see, I don't know that everybody stops there. I do not see people coming down Bristol stopping. And one of the reasons is because the line of driving is a little bit out of the way. Like the opening in the berm is offset to the east. So people are not driving over where that white line is. They're actually driving east of that. So people, now I haven't been there since the new stop sign was put up, which was about 2 months ago. But so I really can't say that, all of a sudden people are stopping there. But I would seriously doubt that 100% of the people are stopping there. But the issue to me is when people park their cars there. DPW engineer left 3 5-foot openings. And when people park a car there, and it does happen, you cannot see people exiting. I've seen cyclists exiting, and I've seen runners exiting. I've just seen all kinds of people using the carriage road there, exiting and entering, and they're not necessarily, if there is a car parked there, they're not visible until they're in the line of driving, the line of sight and they're moving quickly. They're not necessarily just walking slowly. So to me, it's a preventative thing. I think it's a minimal distraction to have a no parking sign there. There's no other signs on that street. There's no curbing on that street. It's a minimal, addition to the street, and which is a beautiful street. And to me, it's a kind of a small thing to have to ensure the safety, and those 3-foot openings are functional as they were intended.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm gathering is, I think that you're saying, if there's a car parked there and someone is traveling on the carriageway eastbound through the opening, then the car might not be able to see the stop sign or the person who's exiting through the barriers traveling to the east. Did that basically summarize what you were saying? Yeah, okay. I think that's a yes. Holly, Vera, did you have another comment?
I think, first of all, the special events, I think that she's talking about is the marathon. And yes, there are many people that try to park on Bristol Road for the marathon, but there are many cones put up, so you're not allowed to park on the street during the marathon. And the second point I want to make is I've never seen many cars parked there over an extended period of time. If there's a car parked there, I want to say maybe it's someone that's enjoying the carriage lane and they are jogging. I walk and jog and bike on the carriage lane. And even if there's a car there, there's plenty of view to see left or right, whether you're going east or west on that carriage lane. I've never, I don't see that it is a deterrent, having a car there that's going to cause an accident, or I just have never seen it. I've lived there 20 years.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And Jane, why don't you have the last comment? We do have, I think, 8 or 9 items after this item, so I want to be respectful for everyone waiting for the next several more items to go. But why don't you make your last comment?
First of all, the special event I am referring to was not the marathon. We had a special event there where we were distributing lights to bicyclists so they could put on their bicycles and be seen at night. This was run by a nonprofit, and we got city permission, and we ran this event there, and we're planning others. And I think that there's an awful lot of parking space. You've got the whole east side. I mean, there's a lot of parking space. We're just asking for a little bit of space over there where people don't park. So we do not have a problem. There's plenty of other space around that I have no issue with people parking anywhere else. It's just where people are exiting over there. And I have myself seen people come, when we ran the special event, there was somebody parked right there and then ran up to get, stuff from us and then
Okay,
ran back.
Thank you very much for those comments. We're going to close the public comment portion of the meeting. We do have the options here, either to deny or to approve option 1. We're not talking about option 2, I don't think. But I'm going to open it up for members of traffic council or city councilors. Mitch?
Yeah, so I know Councilor Downs put the request in September. It's too bad she's not here, because I would like to hear what the rationale. So far, our public comments seem to be one resident who lives right there who is not objecting to the parking. We see that there's a question about a special event situation. And I think, being the resident representative, I think we would go with the resident on this one. And I guess I would suggest that if that's a problem for a special event, similar to what the abutter home person said, maybe there could be a cone put in that location so that it doesn't interfere with the particular event. But at this point, I would vote against this matter.
So you mean just during the event itself, put a cone there? Okay. Captain Devine?
I agree with Mitch. I just don't see the need for the stop sign there. We've heard the residents of the street, and I just have to agree with him on that.
So you don't see the need for a no parking rear to corner sign at that location? Okay.
Correct.
All right. Any other comments? So whether we approve this request or deny this request, we do have a 20-day appeals period. So if someone feels very strongly that we voted in a way that they don't prefer, there is an appeals process. Appeals could only be filed by abutters of the street or city councilors, not by other residents of the city. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Any other comments, or would anyone like to make a motion? None. Oh. None. Go ahead.
I understand the rationale for this, and I think in a situation like this, it makes sense to kind of weigh the pros and cons. I don't think it's particularly clear cut or like a dramatic kind of risk or clear lack of risk. I can see that it's a low traffic street. Um, you know, at most times also low parking demand. It's you know, and the carriage road carries, you know, significant volume of you know, recreational and transportation, pedestrians and cyclists. You know, I think the you know, the proposal suggests you know, asking people if they want to park to, you know, to park you know, maybe 75 feet away from, you know, maybe their most desired spot in order to provide better visibility for vehicles that might be inclined to kind of, you know, on that low volume street to kind of roll on through that stop sign. So I can certainly understand the safety justification for approving this.
Okay. Are you interested in making a motion to approve option one, or do you want to hear further comments?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve option one, right?
Yes.
55 feet from corner. Any other comments before we call the roll? Mitch?
So, Nedcog, the comment was made, I think by Ms. Hanser, who said that she would call to get ticketed cars in that area. I guess the question I have is that an illegal spot at the current time, and why would you call to have tickets? Whoever wants to answer that is okay. Ms. Hanser, if you want to answer that, that'd be all right too.
It's probably a legal spot right now. Unless, I mean, it depends on if the car is parked very, very close to the carriageway within 5 feet or within 20 feet even. It might be an illegal spot.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we have a motion to approve option one. Any other comments from members of traffic council or city councilors? And again, if the vote, you know, we do have the appeals process for residents or for city councilors. All right, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0. TPR 1005, option one.
So I just want to make it clear that to the residents that what has been voted on is to approve a sign similar to what's shown on this graphic, a no parking here to corner sign. It would be located 55 feet from Commonwealth Avenue. If you strongly disagree with that vote, you do have 20 days to appeal this vote. You can call the clerk's office. You can talk to Danielle. There's a form that you could fill out. If the item is appealed, it will be transferred to the Public Safety and Transportation Committee of City Council. They will discuss it, re-notify the residents, and take a final vote. If there is not an appeal, then we will wait until after December 10th. DigSafe will be called, make sure it's safe to install the sign, and then probably the sign would be in place by mid-December. All right, so thank you very much. And we're going to move on now to our next item, which is TC 4825, Councilors Bixby and Danberg, requesting consideration of a stop or yield sign at the T intersection where Terrace Avenue intersects with Dunkley Street to establish right-of-way. Note that this item requests a stop sign, a sign only on Terrace Avenue, not on Dunkley Street in either direction. This is the location in Newton Highlands, Terrace Avenue, where it intersects with Dunkley Street. Here's a view. Terrace Avenue looking toward Dunkley Street, which is to the left and to the right. Here's Dunkley Street looking east, and Terrace Avenue is to the right. So again, we saw this slide earlier in this meeting. It's a T intersection. We have no warrants to look to guide us. We don't need to install a stop sign, but we tend to because we believe it's a small safety benefit. It establishes the right of way. So once again, we do recommend to approve and to add a stop sign at this location. This is the language that we would be voting on. And this would be TPR
6.
Any comments on this item? Seeing none, I will like to make a motion to approve the language of TPR 1006 to add the stop sign at this location. Any last comments before we call the roll? Okay, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis. Captain Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Cod.
Aye.
Mr. Fishman.
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0, TPR 1006.
Nope. Thank you. All right, now we are on to a series of items, and I am going to open. I'm going to read the next 6 items. 6 items into the record. I need to read all of these, so this is going to take a couple minutes probably to read all of these, and then we will handle each of these one by one. So I'm going to open TC 5925, Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller and Director of Planning and Development Barney Heath, requesting to extend the trial of the Langley Road Triangle Municipal Parking Lot in Newton Center, previously part of item number TC 825, including the existing Newton Center Plaza located within a portion of the 2 westernmost rows of parking, to be reevaluated by October 31st, 2026. These are all in Ward 6. The next item is TC 5025, Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller and Director of Planning and Development Barney Heath, requesting to extend and modify the existing public parking spaces along the north side of Lyman Street, previously part of item number TC 825, including converting Lyman Street into a one-way westbound circulation pattern, locating employee and public parking spaces along the north side of Lyman Street, and installing parking payment kiosks. TC 6125, Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller and Director of Planning and Development Barney Heath, requesting to relocate the 12 reserved spots for employee parking within the Langley Road Triangle Municipal Parking Lot in Newton Center. Alternative locations to consider are other municipal parking lots and on-street metered spaces. This item was previously part of item number TC 25. I'm opening TC 5625, David Kozis, Traffic Council Chair, requesting to discuss and potentially vote on official parking regulations on Dalton Road. Note that this item was docketed because the parking regulations that were installed in February 2025 were part of item number TC 825, a Traffic Council trial, and it was determined that the previous long-standing parking regulations were mistakenly not included in the city's official traffic and parking regulations. Without any Traffic Council action, once item number TC 825 ends, there would be no parking restrictions, thereby no parking signage would be posted on either side of Dalton Road. I'm going to open TC 5725, David Kosis, Traffic Council Chair, requesting to update section TPR 176, parking regulations pertaining to particular streets for Center Street in the area south of Bowen Street. Note that this item was docketed because new long-term parking meters were installed in this area as part of item number 825, a Traffic Council trial, and it was determined that once item number TC 825 ends, these meters should be maintained and added to our official traffic and parking regulation. And finally, I'm going to open TC 825, Mayor Ruth Ann Fuller and Director of Planning and Development Barney Heath requesting a trial to remove a portion of the two westernmost rows of parking within the Langley Road Triangle Municipal Parking Lot in Newton Center and relocate the 12 reserved spots for employee parking, the 2 reserved spots for Zipcar, and the 2 reserved spots for Blue Bikes for a net reduction of between 5 and 10 triangle lot public parking spaces to allow for the creation of a temporary public plaza for gathering, arts, and play in the heart of Newton Center. Substitute parking opportunities totaling approximately 64 spaces will be examined in areas near the triangle lot during this trial period, such as the following: adding in additional proposed parking spaces along the southbound side of Center Street near Willow Street, converting Lyman Street into a one-way westbound circulation pattern and relocating the public parking spaces from the south side of Lyman Street to the north side of Lyman Street, changing the parking regulations on Dalton Road with the goal of increasing daytime parking opportunities for the general public, changing the parking opportunities on Pelham Street with the goal of increasing parking opportunities for the general public, changing the parking regulations on a portion of the south side of Pleasant Street with the goal of increasing parking opportunities for the general public, reducing the width of parking spaces along a portion of Beacon Street, and changing the parking regulations on Brayland Avenue with the goal of increasing parking opportunities for the general public. The 12 employee parking spots currently within the triangle lot are proposed to be relocated within the village center, either in other municipal lots or metered street parking. The 2 Zipcar spaces currently within the triangle lot are proposed to be relocated to 2 parking spaces within either the Cypress Street, Pleasant Street, or Pelham Street municipal lots. As a trial, none of these changes are permanent, and permanent changes could only occur through subsequent Traffic Council docket items and action. So this item was heard back on February 27th. We have held it for a long-term trial all this time. We checked in last month on October 16th at Traffic Council and held it then, and it's on the agenda once again tonight. All right, so now I am going to make sure that we have Zach still here, and I see you, Zach. So I'm going to unshare my screen right now, and I believe that you have a presentation that you'll be able to share, right?
Yeah, David, I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, thank you. Was that Hannah? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm stopping my sharing, and you are now should be able to share your screen, or unless maybe Danielle needs to give you permission.
No, I think I'm good. Just give me 1 second. Pull it up.
And as Hannah's pulling that up, I just want to say thank you, Chair, for reading all those items. I think we should all probably have a pop quiz now, right? On all the different things that are happening and or not happening in Newton Center. But as you mentioned, we were here last month talking about kind of findings from the multiple months that the plaza was up. We're back here to talk about a recommendation. And I think that last item that was read, it was kind of looking at Newton Center comprehensively. It was looking at the plaza and the subsequent parking changes, and what the items that are before you now are looking at the results and the findings of what happened over the last many months, and then the recommendation that some of those items continue, some of those items get tweaked to work better, and some of the items return back to what they were. And we'll kind of talk about those all within each of the items. So I just wanted to set the stage there, given that we'll be moving through those items one by one. And with that, I can turn it over to Hannah and Nora to talk about the first item.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your time this evening.
Here is a quick outline of what we are going to discuss in terms of the plaza specifically. As Zach mentioned, there are other items related to this docket item that will be discussed separately. So we'll quickly review the docket language for the item we have in front of you. We'll provide a little bit of background information about the plaza in terms of the location and features. We'll do a kind of brief run through of the plaza evaluation. A lot of this data was shown last month in the update, but we really wanted to demonstrate where we came to our recommendation from, and then a couple quick thoughts about looking ahead. So Hannah, if you can skip through. Here is the docket language requesting to extend the trial of the Langley Road Triangle. I know David Kosis already read this out, so we can go to the next slide. The goal was really to create a sense of place in the most central area of Newton Center. And as a pilot, the plaza also allows us to gather real-world feedback and data before making any longer-term decisions. So here you can see the before and after images of the plaza, the space located if you go back, Hannah, sorry, back to. It's right at the heart of the village center. Previously catered to primarily cars and was often not fully used. And in the after image on the right, you can see from this aerial perspective, really just the colorful ground murals and shade structures, as well as the improved paving, which occurred this spring. Now we can go next, thank you. So this photo was taken in the winter of 2025, showing the area before the plaza, the space, of course, catering to cars, lacking amenities for pedestrian, and was very, very dark in the evenings, as we are seeing now. Go next. Here's a view of the plaza on the ground this summer, showing how the space is used by many different people for many different activities. Eating, socializing, resting, reading, playing. Ultimately, the plaza was supporting a variety of community needs while maintaining access for pedestrians between the Langley Lot and Union. And the plaza includes several features designed to enhance the Newton Center experience. There's shade and lighting, which increases comfort and extends usability into the evening during the summer months and the winter months in terms of the lighting. Games and entertainment, having that community engagement, comfortable seating, supporting people to kind of stay and socialize and interact, maybe visit more destinations than they had anticipated. Safety and separation from cars, so creating a secure environment for people to walk and spend time. And then public art and outdoor dining, just adding vibrancy and supporting local restaurant and cafe businesses. The project was funded through ARPA, and the total pilot cost was approximately $287,000, which covered construction, design, engineering, community engagement, and materials, as well as business promotion and wayfinding and maintenance. This investment allowed the city to create a high-quality public space and test how it functions in a real-world condition, gathering data to inform future decisions about whether to maintain, modify, or remove the plaza. So with that, I will turn it over to Hannah to dive into the data gathering and evaluation process. Cool. Thank you, Nora. Really appreciate that. So before we start, I want to shout out, I see one of our interns who's here. They did a great job this summer. We had volunteers and interns who participated in helping collect some data. So we'll get into that throughout the presentation. So in early July, we put scannable QR codes inside the plaza to gather direct feedback from users of the space. And from those QR codes, we got 226 respondents.
And from a scale of 1 to 5 stars, 1 being low, 5 being high, we had an average rating of 4.7 for just overall satisfaction with the space. And with a question regarding if you would like the plaza to continue this pilot, 86% of respondents said yes, they would want the plaza to continue. And we also collected data on where people are coming from. So interestingly, we had 41 different zip codes, and of those 41, 78% came from Newton, and the other 22% from neighboring or other communities. And then we see here, we have a chart dictating information about the number of people who were at each space, at the plaza and at the green. And again, thanks to our interns, we had 52 observations, so we had a ton of data here. And it was cool because we were able to retrospectively see the actual temperature and weather for each data point. And so that's there as well to show in different weather events, we still saw people attending the plaza. So for example, on July 19th, it was 88 degrees and sunny, quite hot, and there was no event, no active programming happening. And we still had about 150 people at the plaza and around 130 at the green. And then we also see for our peak time, 155 people at the plaza, 133 people at the green. And we also see the lines sort of mirroring each other. So we don't see, you know, a big gap where a lot of people are at the plaza and not at the green and vice versa. So we see that they're both being heavily used and not detracting from one another. And then we also heard positive feedback about the accessibility of the space. So here's a quote from our feedback survey. My husband is handicapped and the setup was perfect. And from those that survey that we had in the plaza, 96% of respondents felt that the plaza was accessible, and 57%, so more than half of folks, didn't drive. They biked, walked, rolled, or took public transit, which also alleviated any other parking needs because they weren't going there by vehicle. And we can see in this picture too, just the nature of the plaza. It's a flat site, and it had porous openings that were wheelchair and other mobility device accessible for people. And then we were very chose furniture that was accessible for different mobility needs as well, which we heard positive feedback about. And then in addition to this, a big goal of the project was to promote local economic development. And so we partnered with All Over Newton to create this general landing page of Newton Center businesses. And adjacent to the QR code for the survey was a QR code that took you to this website. And if you scanned your phone to the QR code, you saw a map of all the local Newton Center businesses. And it took you to a page where you could directly order different food and just see all the retail shops that were around. So, and from our survey earlier, 95% of Plaza survey respondents said that they visited a local business. And of those 95%, almost a quarter said they visited a business for the first time. So really cool there. And then All Over Newton was able to measure the website traffic. So up till October, they saw 1,007 website visits to this landing page. And All Over Newton also posted on social media promoting this initiative. And through those Instagram posts, the stories and posts, they saw 16,901 views. In addition to that, the city worked to get the outdoor special event permit fee waived to promote hosting events there and incentivize that. And following that, we saw 7 events that were held in this space. And then we also reached out to businesses to solicit some feedback from the businesses in the area. We sent out a survey. We received 16 responses from that survey, and we also partnered with All Over Newton to get feedback from their contacts. And then we also followed up in person with businesses that wished to speak with us. And so we sort of had 2 buckets of information that we received from the businesses. One was Plaza feedback and the other was on parking, and we'll get into parking in this a little bit in this slide, but in the subsequent slides as well. But for Plaza feedback, we heard requests for more activation that includes and supports the local businesses. We also heard that the Plaza was viewed as a welcoming space and businesses saw their products out in the Plaza, so that was a positive comment that we heard. And we also heard a desire to continue to trial the Plaza throughout the year, that it should be given more time to test this as a space. And then regarding parking, we also heard that some businesses expressed concern around customer and employee parking. And we also heard from other businesses that they didn't hear more of an uptick in complaints about parking availability than before the plaza, that it stayed the same. So, you know, that's that. And then regarding some soft findings and just observations, so some positive things that we did witness and hear and see, no acts of major vandalism occurred in the plaza. We found that the large games, like the large Jenga and the big Connect 4, had really good durability and they held well through this pilot. And then we also were excited to report no furniture was removed or broken. It was very durable. And we didn't have any major public safety issues as well. Some lessons that we learned throughout this trial is that small games created some messes, that we need a more durable cornhole, and the larger shade sails for more shade in the summer and the hotter parts of the season, and clearer signage of hours of operation, which we'll keep these lessons in mind going forward. And then we'll get into the parking lot utilization findings. So here's an aerial shot of the 4 main parking lots in Newton Center. And generally, our big finding is that short-term parking is almost always available across all 4 public lots in Newton Center, before the plaza and with the plaza in place. Let's see here. So these graphs show averages that were taken on multiple days at different times throughout the day. And you can see in the top right-hand corner how many counts were taken. So pre-plaza, we did winter counts, which were shown in the previous presentations as well. So there was 9 counts taken then. And we see the dotted line here for the functionally full percentage at 85%. That's when a lot is considered pretty much full. And so in the green outline part of the bar graph, that's the unoccupied percentage, and then the blue part is the occupied percentage. So we see all 4 of these lots in Newton Center consistently under that functionally full percentage. And again, these are averages taken on multiple days at different times. And then we have in the summer, and again, thanks to our interns, we had 49 counts, and we still see that parking is below that functionally full time. The functionally full threshold, I should say. And then I'll skip to the fall, and we did 8 counts in the fall. And again, all these averages, it's still consistently below the functionally full threshold. So given all of what we just outlined, all of the data and the anecdotal information and our solicitation of feedback, the planning department recommends to extend the trial of the plaza into next fall because of what we just described. So positive community input collected through surveys, tabling, emails, and meetings. In addition, I'd like to add that we also received positive support from the EDC at their meeting. And we also received a positive note from the Chamber of Commerce as well. And then we also saw that there was significant use of the green and the plaza based on those observations that were shown in the line graph, not one detracting from the other, rather they were complementing each other. And then from those bar graphs, we saw that parking is still available. And then again, like I mentioned, we had some business feedback to continue to pilot it more time, to give it, you know, some time to see how it fares in different times of the year. And then through that, we also heard some feedback about programming, and we think that, you know, longer lead time in different parts of the year, we have additional opportunities of programming and further business collaboration that we can contribute throughout the next year. And then an alternative that we considered was to take the plaza down in the winter and build it back up in the spring. And why this is not a feasible alternative, why we're not recommending this, is because once taken down, a rebuild is extremely cost prohibitive. It would cost around $120,000 to deconstruct in the winter and then reconstruct in the spring. And we also believe it's a missed opportunity to test this in different seasons, particularly in the holiday season with different potential for events and programs. And I'll pass it back to Nora for our look ahead.
Thank you, Hannah. So as Hannah said, if you go to the next slide, we were really happy with the durability of materials in general. But looking ahead, there are several potential improvements we've identified based on what we observed so far, and what we heard from the community. So for the winter months, if the plaza continues, we have a plan in place for snow removal and continued maintenance to ensure the space can function safely throughout the season into the spring and summer. And we would also look at updating and adding more lighting and seasonal decor to make the plaza feel welcoming during the darker months. And for spring and summer, we would introduce sturdier, larger scale games, rethink some of the smaller games to better withstand regular use and weather. And we would also work to provide additional shade through installing larger shade sails in the summer, along with more seating to support the level of furniture use we've observed so far. These adjustments would continue to improve the experience of the space, and allow it to better serve the community should the plaza move forward. So with that, we look forward to the council's discussion. Thank you very much.
Okay, so Hannah or Zach or Nora, at this point, are you looking for public comment? Are you going to call on the public, or do you want me to call on the public for comment? Looks like you're requesting a vote from traffic council to hold this item for a long-term trial. Okay, we did get about 9 emails on this item. I think you went over most of them in the presentation. There were a few I would mention from residents of Pelham Street that were asking for to change the parking restrictions back to how they were before, which would be the case if, when we get to TC 825, if that one is voted NAN. But so for this item that we're on right now, for TC 5925, are you looking to take public comment at this meeting?
I think that would make the most sense. But I defer to you. I know there's a long agenda.
Okay. So would you like me to call on public?
I would appreciate that.
Okay.
And if it's helpful for us to respond, you can call on us, or we can wait till the end, whichever.
Look, and then you guys could respond to the public. Or maybe, well, let's do this. Why don't we call on the public, listen to all the comments? Why don't you guys write down any comments that you might want to make? And then when we close the public comment period, we could see if there's any responses by the staff of the planning department. Does that sound good? All right. So we'll start with Richard Silton.
Thank you. We live at 37 Pelham Street. So Pelham Street is going to be my second comment, if I can go to that. But I want to start with the plaza. I appreciate all the work that was done on this presentation, but if that were presented to me at my business, I would rip it to shreds. And you're telling us on the one hand that we need to take all this parking in the community, but at the same time, there's always parking available. I don't understand. Nobody covered the annual cost of maintenance of this area. This is an adventure to solve a problem that didn't exist. The green space that was already there is plenty big enough. If you put more picnic tables and you put some other games out there and use the space that exists, it would be fine. Instead, we've created a problem to solve a problem that we didn't have. We just created a whole bunch more problems. It doesn't make any sense. Mr. Costa, I could hold my comments on Pelham Street, or I could deliver them now.
You should go ahead, please, Mr. Silton.
Okay. So first of all, it's always been a very busy street, Pelham Street. We have the two parking lots dump onto Pelham Street. I think you're going to hear one of my neighbors who've actually measured this street, and it's really too narrow to do. You have a situation where next door to us is senior housing, and every day a van comes up to drop or pick up the people from that van, and the van can't even park in front of that house anymore. When the cars are parked along the street, they're almost always encroaching on the driveways, because wouldn't you want to park in a free 2-hour spot, nice and close, rather than parking in the meters, which are always available? Why not just take those spots away and let people park in the meters? Because I just heard that there's always plenty of parking. Did I not hear that? I think I did. So why are we trying to take spaces away and create a traffic issue that didn't exist before to solve a problem that we don't have? This was and we haven't even dealt with the snow issue yet. Once we start piling up snow along that street, it's going to get even narrower. And it's a one-way street. All right, it doesn't work. I understand it was a trial and everybody held their breath to see, but it doesn't work. So I know this problem was created because of the Langley parking area, which I've already given my opinion on that. But to have it spill over to create a parking problem where I just heard in this presentation that there's always plenty of parking, why are we doing this? Makes no sense. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to respond to your comment about Pelham Street. So the changes on Pelham Street occurred as a result of item number 825, which was the long description of all the different changes that were initiated in February. And importantly, the last sentence in that docket item says that as a trial, as a trial, none of these changes are permanent, and permanent changes could only occur through subsequent traffic council docket items and actions. So please note that no new items were docketed for Pelham Street. No new items were docketed for Brayland Avenue. So when we get to TC 825, if that item is voted NaN, no action necessary, that item goes away. The current parking restrictions on Brayland Avenue and on Pelham Street revert automatically to what they were before. I know it's a little bit confusing because now we have a new trial, but notice that the new trial does not make any mention of Brayland Avenue or Pelham Street. So if it is the case that a new trial is enacted and the old trial goes away, I want to make sure that everyone understands that Pelham Street and Brayland Avenue go back to how they were before, unless someone dockets an item to make changes again or on those streets. It has not happened yet. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I was confused about that in here. So, all right. Thank you.
I knew that there would be a little confusion about that. Let's move on to Forest. Is it Lancelotti?
Yeah. Hi. So like Hannah said, I was lucky to intern with the planning department this summer where I collected a lot of data on the plaza, which Hannah did a very good job covering. I'd just like to add that during and after the trials, just anecdotally, there were a lot of people always there. It has been a space that's been very well used by the community and people of all ages. And Hannah briefly mentioned this, but it was more mentioned in the previous presentation. It did serve and does serve a unique purpose separate from the green, where it was much more welcoming and open to families playing with their young children. And oftentimes, especially in the summer, the green, the plaza served as a space that also held like overflow from the green because there were so many people outside, and it encouraged people to just be outside and go support local businesses.
Great. Thank you very much, Forrest. And thanks for your work you did over the summer. The next one I see is Shane's iPhone. And we can't see you. I don't know if you can unmute. Danielle, did you give Shane's iPhone the opportunity to unmute?
Yes, I keep asking him to unmute.
Okay. All right. In the meantime, I forgot to mention that we have been joined by Councillor Maliki from Ward 3, also from the Newton DPW, Evan Super, our parking manager, and of course we have Danielle Delaney. I didn't mention you, our committee clerk, is here obviously. All right, so let's move on to Steve's iPad. If you could unmute. And it's the same thing. We don't see you.
No, he's not on mute either.
I just unmuted. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Steve Bask. Actually, I had reached out to Hannah early on, and I was happy to hear about the fact that the parking is not fully utilized that exists in the area. I live at 711 Beacon Street, and I think several of my other neighbors also submitted comments today because they were, like I was, only made aware of it when I returned last week that there was even this on the docket. I live on the corner of Dalton Road and Beacon Street. Although I have a Beacon Street address, my driveway is on Dalton. And we really would like to see the parking in front of our houses on Dalton Road, which is a very quiet.
Look, I just want to pause for 1 second because the item that you're commenting on, we want to hear from you, but that's not the item that we're on right now. So if you could hold your comments until we get to the Dalton Road item, that was specifically docketed for discussion.
Where is it on the docket, David?
Yeah, it's on the docket. It's TC 5625. So it's 3 items from now. Okay.
Okay.
So definitely want to hear you, but just not quite yet.
Okay. I didn't understand why we were talking about Pelham Street if we weren't talking about Dalton Road, because
Pelham Street was not docketed, but Dalton Road was docketed. There's an item for Dalton Road.
Okay.
Okay. So let's move on to Kia Freeman. Okay, you're muted, but I don't think
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you. Yes, go
Okay,
ahead.
great. I echo what my neighbor on Pelham Street said. Like, I heard several times in the presentation from 2 different people that there was available parking. If that is true, then I don't understand why there's so many items on the agenda here to consider additional or substitute parking. If that's really true, then we should revert to just taking that plaza and eliminating those spaces or dedicating them to the plaza. And that's done with parking. We don't need to do any more with respect to parking. So I don't know if I had a trade-off between having the plaza and having my neighborhood overrun with cars, which I think is the likely outcome. I would definitely not want the plaza. It's not worth it to me. It decreases the entire residential neighborhood's quiet enjoyment of their property to have all these cars in their neighborhood. And I just don't think it's fair, particularly when there have been commercial developments in the Newton Center commercial area where there's been a waiver of parking requirements, which could have provided additional parking. I just feel like we just keep pushing, denying that there's a parking issue, and then pushing the parking into the residential neighborhoods. And I don't think that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're Pelham Street, is that right? I think that you said that you were Pelham Street. So I just want to once again make it clear that the item that we're talking about right now, which is TC 5925, is a request for the pilot itself to continue in the Langley lot. There's no mention in this item of anything about Pelham Street or any other street. So again, if it is the case that this item is held for a trial, then when we get further down the agenda to TC 825, where Pelham Street is listed, and that item ends, then the parking restriction on Pelham Street ends and goes back to what it was previously. I hope that that's clear. Let's move on to Hedy.
Hi.
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 Go ahead.
Hi. Oops. My name's Hedy Jarris. I'm the owner of Sweet Tomatoes Pizza. And I have been in business in Newton Center for 27 years. And in the beginning, when I heard that there were X amount of parking spaces going to be taken over for the plaza, I was not for it. And then when I heard that the number was changing for parking spaces, and when I saw the outcome of the plaza, I was very happy with the outcome. I think that it's been a great addition to Newton Center, and it has showed great desire for outdoor community space. So not only am I a resident in Newton and a business owner in Newton, I also am a member of the EDC. And Tuesday night, we had a robust discussion about the plaza and how it's long been supported. The EDC has long supported this kind of concept. We voted unanimously on two things. First, that the EDC would like the plaza to remain in place through the end of 2026 so that the city can collect more data on its use and impact. The EDC also voted unanimously to encourage the city to use the collected information to do an evaluation focused on both cost benefits to the parklet, to the city, local businesses, and residents. We also feel that the idea of taking it down, we currently have an asset being the plaza, it's already paid for, and removing it would be a loss. Parking, parking is tough. Sometimes, I mean, there are usually spaces. I feel for the people on Pelham who are people who work in Newton Center parking there. I also think that we're in a Newton Center right now where the plaza has been great. I think that we're also have been dealing with parking issues with the Green Line being down and MBTA workers parking all along Union Street. Today, Charles Construction is doing sidewalks and they took up a bunch of spaces. But at the end of the day, I really feel that parking is always available. It may not be the parking spot that you want, but you will indeed get it. And I think that the plaza brings brightness into Newton Center and has the ability to bring people together in a community. And I vote that it stays, and as well as the EDC. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for that comment. We'll try one last time for Shane's iPhone. If you're there, oh, okay, I see you've unmuted. Go ahead, please. So we can't hear you, but I see that you have unmuted. So I think there might be something wrong with I'm not sure, with your microphone or something. Your speaker. Okay, you've muted again. Why don't we move on to Councilor Lipoff?
Thank you. A pilot is a pilot is a pilot. It's not set in stone, and it's a moving thing that we take a look at over time. I'm so happy that Hedy showed up because, anecdotally talking to business owners in Newton Center, as well as hanging out at that plaza, and really paying attention to it quite often. just because of what we're going through right now, because I know that there needs to be feedback and buy-in, from the council and from the public. I have only seen the usage of that plaza increase. I have sat there and talked to individuals eating pizza, eating things from Salt, and they absolutely love it. And so it is undeniable that it's being used. We want the businesses to buy in, and it sounds like not only Hetty, but from others I've heard that they love it. The parking situation is a pilot as well. And I hear loud and clear from the people on Pelham, and that can be dealt with. The counts that we've done show that there's more than enough space, more than enough spaces available. And I think all of us who use Newton Center, I mean, I go down there 3-4 times a week, and I always get a space. If I'm going to Johnny's, it's right on Langley. It's rare I even have to go into the lot. Community gathering spaces are even more important with everybody staying in their home all the time. And I love to see people come out and be together and mix. I love the space. I'm all for this to be moving forward. And it's great to do it with all of our eyes on it, seeing that we have the spaces, that it's being used, that the businesses are buying in, and that we can make sure that we can change parking situations that we've created along the way if they've been adverse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I agree exactly with what you said. A pilot's a pilot, a trial's a trial. You know, we started with a trial back in February. We were concerned about the number of parking spaces. That's why the item included opportunities for more public spaces in the neighborhood. We collected data all this time. The planning department collected data and their interns. Now a new pilot is being recommended that does not include all the same kind of parking in the neighborhood. It's a different, it's a similar trial in the center, in the Langley lot, but not in the neighborhood. So that's what the purpose, I think, is of a trial, to see what happens, not make something permanent until you know that it's time to be made permanent. Let's move on to Mitch Fishman.
You called on me, David?
Yes, Mitch, go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been, the last couple meetings, this is the second time I've heard the presentation, and it's quite impressive what the planning department has been able to collect. And after the last meeting, I went out a couple times to look at it, and it's quite impressive. And I really support extending it. The only comment I'd make about the winter, now that it looks like the feasibility of leaving it is better than taking it and redoing it, would be that maybe there's some winter condition improvements, meaning where the prevailing winter wind is, maybe there's some temporary plastic or some kind of transparent barriers that allows people to sit there without suffering from the northwest or northeasterly winds, which is removable. There might be something there, but I think the whole idea seems to be a really good one.
Thank you, Mitch. Looks like the last comment is from Nancy Honig and Lisa Gordon. Hi, Lisa. You just need to unmute. I think that you need to get permission from Danielle.
Yeah, when I tried to unmute, it said I didn't have permission to unmute. So thank you. My first question is just a point of clarification, if you don't mind. You're saying that the residential streets are no longer included in the continuing of the pilot, except for Dalton Road, which is a separate item. Is that the case?
Well, an item was docketed for Center Street because there was a change that was made on Center Street that we want to be made permanent. And an item was docketed for Dalton Road because we needed to docket Dalton Road because we found that there were no official parking regulations listed on Dalton Road, and we wanted to make sure that there was some kind of restriction on the books.
Okay, even though they had signs before that, correct?
For decades.
Okay,
We'll get to that item and you can see.
okay, thank you. I just want to echo some of the things that Rick and Hetty said. I think it's a beautiful space. I love the lights. I'm all for vibrancy in Newton Center. The exception that I'd say is that when I spent time there, many people mused to me that they didn't understand why it wasn't on the green and traversing where the walkway paths are. People did find it peculiar that it was taking up parking. I found a mix of the businesses that I went in and spoke with did feel that it was an inappropriate use of parking spaces in the village, because we all know people want to park as close as they can to things, which is partly why people often go to malls. And I'm hearing that the costs would be too expensive to, say, flip the trial and put it on the green and do a trial there and then see how that comes out. I think it was a mistake to take up the parking lot. And I am wondering what the costs will be for snow removal and for keeping that clear with those Jersey barriers there. It doesn't seem to me like, and the furniture in there, I'm just wondering if those costs have been put out so people can know. And I think Richard mentioned also maintenance costs. I think all of that needs to be included in a presentation so that all of us residents can really understand what it is that we're talking about. So maintenance costs, snow removal costs, how much it is to maintain it in the winter would be interesting. I also noticed that the data that you collected was largely only from the actual users in that space. And I think that's really important data to collect. But I also think it's self-selecting, especially when you're only talking about QR codes. So I think if the trial continues, we really need to be sending people out there to be more inclusive. We need to talk to people. We have to talk to people coming and going from local businesses. We should have had somebody visit every local business surrounding there, asking them specific questions, not just having it be self-motivated, because that's truly how you analyze and look at all of the unintended and intended consequences of a pilot or a trial. So I would urge us to move beyond just scanning QR codes and actually having conversations. I think it would have also maybe been thoughtful. There are people who signed up to get newsletters and information about the pilot, and there's many residents that I've been in touch with who didn't know that there was a website devoted to this. And perhaps we could have been, when the mayor sends out a newsletter, there could have been an invitation there for those of us who don't use QR codes or are older and aren't using their phones for everything, although many are. So I would like to see a greater effort in reaching more people and getting more respondents. And I think it's really important that we focus on what our local community feels about this. I think it's great that people came from all kinds of places. We have Harvest Fest. We have people coming in all the time. I spend a lot of time on the green. I spoke to a lot of people. And I think that this meeting here is only giving us a little bit of the picture. So I'll end by saying that mostly my biggest concern is the vibrancy and the ability for our local businesses to thrive. And I do think you lose customers when people can't park as close as they want. We can't even get employees to park further away. So I think we have to be thoughtful about people who are traveling here from other places and want to park and enjoy this wonderful space. So I'm giving you two messages here, but depending on where this goes, I really wish we had thought about putting this in the space that I think it belonged, which was the green space, and I don't think anyone would have minded at all. I think everyone would agree that the pilot should continue. The last thing I'll say, because you're going to get to Dalton Road, is that the residents who have parking restrictions in and around Newton Center fought really, really hard for those restrictions, and it was done incredibly thoughtfully. And so I just hope that the voice of the residents will come through when you take up items like Dalton Road, because those residents know what's going on in their streets, and they actually had to work hard to get those restrictions. Thanks for your patience in my contribution.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Of course, our councilor-elect from Ward 6. So I think that that's it for the public comments. I would ask, Zach and Hannah and Nora, are there any responses that you feel like you would like to make, or just move on to a motion?
Maybe just a couple comments just for the general public. One is we're working really closely with DPW about snow removal, and they've committed to being the partner that does that. I think again we're still working out the details as that moves forward. Maintenance, throughout the time that the plaza's been up, we've been partnered with Parks, who's been coming daily to do trash pickup and general pickup and cleanup. We're working with them and continuing that we have budget to make sure that that's still a priority.
And I can just add a little bit more detail onto that. We're fortunate that Parks was already coming to the green for trash pickup. So in total, it's been under $1,000 for maintenance for the past roughly 6 months. And so, as Zach said, we have budgeted if this were to continue.
And just another piece. How about if there's people ready to make a motion, I think we can go down that road if that's what you so choose.
Okay. So thank you, planning department staff. Thank you, all members of the public. And we're looking for a motion to hold TC 5925 for a long-term trial. Who was that? You?
It was me, Councilor Lipoff.
Councilor Lipoff makes a motion to hold TC 5925 for a long-term trial. Are there any last comments? Danielle, can you please call the roll for holding this item?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's held 5-0.
Okay, good. And I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen now. I think this, right? Okay, that's where we left off. Okay, I think I'm gonna go out of order a little bit. Let's move just straight through to, I wanted to move to over to this item, TC 825. This was the old trial. So now we're looking for a motion to NAN this item. This trial has run its course. It's time to end it since we have just approved the new trial, the new long-term trial. So I'd like to make a motion to NAN this item, TC 825. Are there any comments? Okay, so if this motion to NAN is approved, what that means is that everything in the neighborhood goes back to how it was before. On Center Street, on Lyman, on Pleasant Street, on Pelham Street, on Braylon Street, until we get to the other items that are docketed, right? We are going to specifically talk about Center Street. We're going to specifically talk about Dalton in a few minutes. Pelham Street, go back to how it was before. Braylon goes back to how it was before. Same for Pleasant Street, going back to how it was before. Any comments? Okay, Danielle, can you call them? Can you call the roll for NANing TC 825?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Cod. Is he here? Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Fishman
Aye.
and Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, TC 825 is voted no action necessary, 5-0.
Good. Now I would like to go back because I know we have folks from Dalton Road here. I want to go to Dalton Road, TC 5625. I'm going to go back to this one. Okay. So, and I already read it into the record. So I'm going to do the presentation for TC 5625. Then we'll hear from the public. So here's Dalton Road. It's just the one block between Everett Street and Beacon Street. And just tried to move something on my screen. Okay. This is a view looking from Everett Street down toward Beacon Street. Looking north toward Beacon Street. Oh, I'm sorry, looking north from Beacon Street, you can see that there's no parking on the east side of Dalton Road. And this is the west side. We have posted as part of the trial that we just NA'd a 2-hour limit, except for resident permit for most of the west side of Dalton. Okay. This particular sign is 50 feet from Beacon Street. So again, this is what the signage looked like before the trial in February. It was both sides of the street had very, very old signs that said no parking 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. except Sundays and holidays. And it was also a tow zone if cars did park there. So as part of the trial starting in February, these signs were posted. It's no parking on the east side. On the west side, a 2-hour limit, except Sundays and holidays. Residents who live on Dalton Road were able to get a permit to be able to park longer than 2 hours. I believe there were some residents who did get the permit, which was offered for free during the trial period. So the reason that this was docketed is because we found that there was no official restriction that was listed in our traffic and parking regulations. This is just a little piece of our traffic and parking regulations. It's a 225-page document that lists all different parking regulations and other restrictions and signage across the city. And just note, so I just took this little section to show that, you know, we see Dale Street listed, we see Daniel Street listed. Dalton Road is not listed in our official regulations, right? So since we just NA'd the trial, if there's nothing on the books, there would be no signage left. We would have to take all the signs down. And I wanted to docket something so that we would be sure to have some opportunity to put signage back on the street now that this trial has ended, right? So I have two different options. One option would be to return the previously posted signage, the no parking 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., except Sundays and holidays. It would be probably replaced with a new sign, not one that's so old, but it would say the same thing. This would be the language that we would be voting on to add those signs back officially into the books and on the street. Or another option could be to maintain the signage that we have, the no parking on one side, the 2-hour limit on the other side. I think that there are some advantages to having some parking on the street. It's very common in streets near a village center to have something like a 2-hour limit, and for residents to be able to park longer than 2 hours. Happens on streets throughout the city. It's probably convenient for the residents to be able to have some use of their street for themselves and for their guests, but not all day parking for the general public. I think that there's a traffic calming benefit if you have a couple cars parked on the street. You know, when a street is completely clear of all vehicles, or, you know, I think that a traffic engineer would say, you know, there's nothing to prevent the cars from going a little bit faster. At least if you have some cars parked there, the speeds might be a little bit lower. So there's some advantages. And we have the language if that's the will of the residents and the committee. So that is the presentation that I have. We do have several emails that we received from the public that I'm going to summarize very quickly. I think that there were, I'm not sure how many we have. The first one is from 75 Dalton Road. That's advocating for a return to no parking on Dalton Road. It says that Dalton Road is relatively narrow and quite well traveled. People use Dalton Road as a cut through to avoid Newton Center. As a result, they tend to be driving quickly. TC 825 allowing parking on one side of the street reduced visibility for these drivers and made it difficult for two cars to pass. For residents, no matter which side of the street we live on, the current parking regulations make it challenging for us to enter and exit our driveway because either because of reduced visibility or because the street is too narrow with a car parked across from our driveway. We have an email from 711 Beacon Street at the corner of Dalton, I think. We live on Dalton Road and we do not approve of parking on our street. Please include this email in the No to Parking on Dalton Road column. We have an email from 62 Dalton Road and 701 Beacon Street, which fronts Dalton Road, requesting the Traffic Council correct the error in our traffic and parking regulations by restoring the long-standing parking regulations on Dalton Road. That would be option 1. 711 Beacon Street, is that the same? No, 711 Beacon Street is a different address. Would like Dalton Road returned to no daytime parking. And it's unanimous. We have 78 Dalton Road saying people, including school bus drivers, travel quickly up and down the hill as they cut through to Newton Center. Parked vehicles make visibility extremely difficult as we try to exit our driveways. Two-way traffic is impossible if there are utility or landscape trucks on the street. So that's what we have for public comment, at least the emails that we received. And now we'll go to anyone on the call who wishes to make a comment. I see Steve's iPad.
Yes, I was the one that commented also. I'm happy to see that all of my neighbors seem to be in agreement that parking on the street, we would like to see it go back to the no parking between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. except holidays and Sundays. Another thing that was also missing from the original signage, I'm glad you pointed that out, was if people are parking, even if it is only on the Sundays or in the evenings, the curb cut requirement that I see on all of the other street signage on Beacon Street, that you can't park within 5 feet of the curb cut, was missing from the signage. So I think that that's an important thing to remember because, again, our curb cuts are fairly narrow because the driveways and the curb cuts were done when people often only had one car that they were parking in their driveway. And they're very narrow. And when people park right up against the curb cuts, it makes it really difficult to back out onto Dalton Road in either direction. And additionally, there have been several occasions during the trial period where either the leaf bags for yard waste or the trash cans that have to be put out on the berms were blocked by the cars that previously were parking. And I thought what was interesting in the photographs that you took, at the top of the street, those cars that are all parked there are all construction vehicles that are working on a house on Everett Street and has really nothing to do with the experiment. There's never really a lot of parking on Dalton Road, but I think us at 711 Beacon and also our neighbors, the Koenigs, just north of us, bore the brunt of people parking because no one really wants to park here and walk all the way to the far side of Newton Center. It was people that were parking that I observed and took pictures of their license plate that parked there and left the car for 6 to 8 hours. And a couple of them, I know for a fact, were restaurant workers that work at the restaurants up the street, which I completely support all the businesses in Newton Center and especially the restaurants. But I don't think it's right for someone to come here and park, even if it says 2 hours, and leave the car for 6 or 8 hours. I mean, they could be taking the T into Boston for all I know. And I know that's why some of the original parking restrictions, when we moved into the neighborhood, had just been put into place in the late 80s, early 90s, because the business directly across the street, which is now the post office and a Medi Center, was a car dealership, and people would come and leave their cars all day while they were parked there waiting for service. So I think that's, for those of you that don't know where the parking restrictions came from, it was because they were abusing the parking, and the signage went in to prevent those people from parking there. But again, it sounds like it's a moot point. If in fact the vote takes into consideration all the residents of the street. But I do think it would be necessary in the new signage, or at least adding something that says, do not park within 5 feet of the curb cuts, which almost eliminates one of the parking spaces in front of our house.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I just want to say, I also thought that the parklet was a great success. And I can understand why I myself have gone to Salt and taken something and sat there. So I could see that it has a benefit to the community. I just don't think that we should be encouraging people to commute into the thing. They could take the T, many people could walk. There are a lot of other options, and there's plenty of parking available. Is what I had also mentioned originally to Hannah in my observations.
Thank you very much. Greg Reedman. Hi, Greg. And Greg might need some help unmuting.
He's not unmuting, and maybe he stepped away.
Okay, let's move on to Nancy Honig and Lisa Gordon.
Am I on? Yes. Okay. Hi, my name is Nancy Honig. My address is 62 Dalton Road. I'm speaking on behalf of myself, Lawrence Honig at the same address, and two of my neighbors, Ruth Kilroy and James Kilroy, at 701 Beacon Street, and the house actually fronts on Dalton Road. I'm asking that you revert back to the original parking regulations as they were prior to being temporarily changed for the plaza trial period. This would also correct the error in the Newton traffic parking regulations, which apparently omitted reference to Dalton Road by mistake. Those regulations were the result of a great deal of work by the residents of the street, and a board order was issued, and we would like to see those regulations put back in place. The original regulations banned parking on both sides of the street on specific days and times, as you've already noted. Dalton Road was included at some point in the TPR. So a clerical or transcription error may have resulted in the mistaken omission. We do not know at this point how that happened, but the order of the board should not be overturned in any case. Dalton Road residents were assured repeatedly before the trial began that everything would be restored to how it always had been on Dalton Road when the plaza trial ended. We would like to see these long-standing regulations restored to our street. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll try one last time for Greg. Are you there, Greg?
No.
He got kicked out. He's coming back in now.
Okay. He might be trying a different way to join. Let's just wait 1 moment. All right, do you see?
Yep, there he is. He's back.
Hello. Good evening. Sorry about that. You can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Greg Reedman. I'm president of the Charles River Chamber, and I actually got 2 questions. I'm a little confused. How many back when we began the prior pilot, we added net spaces on the side streets, the ones we're talking about today overall. What was the number of the net streets that we added? And what's the number that we're now talking about potentially removing from that equation?
I think this would be a question for the planning department to have an answer for that.
I'd have to get the specific numbers, but as part of these items, you know, the residential streets that were included in kind of changing regulations that added parking, those are, you know, Dalton Road is on the table right here, but essentially would revert back to what they were previously. And then there's other items on Lyman Street and Center Street to essentially maintain those spaces that were added. And I think those spaces on Lyman Street and on Center Street to be continued are, I think it's about 15 to 16 additional spaces that are coming from those that didn't exist previously. There's also efficiencies gained, I know, through the repaving and striping of the lot, of the Langley lot itself. Anyways, I can get the specifics to you at a later date.
So I would say
So I would just say
really
that,
important because
like, just
this
also,
project was sold on the idea that we would be adding streets, adding parking to additional areas. And I think it's important to know what it is, because merchants agreed to do this, to support the pilot based on the additional spaces. If we're now losing a large percentage of those or all of those, that changes the equation on whether people are enthusiastic about this or not.
so we're losing the spaces on Pleasant Street that were added to the pilot. We're not losing any spaces on Brayland. They're just changing the regulation. We've added 5 spaces on Center Street. We've added a number of spaces on Lyman Street. I think we added 1 space on Beacon Street. So Pelham is reverting back to how it was before. And we are discussing, for this item, we're discussing Dalton Street.
And if I can, David, just to say is that the data that we collected, that there's the public lots have capacity, which we didn't, you know, I would argue that was known before, given all the analysis done, but we did more analysis of that. And that point has proven true. So I think some of the other residents who've stated, you know, why are you looking to change X street or Y street when there's parking available? There's validity to that argument. It's a bit, I think, to kind of look at the chamber's note, it's about wayfinding and making sure it's clear where those spaces exist. It's not and that there is a lack of parking. I think Greg is trying to speak again.
Yeah, I think you're muted still. Okay, go ahead.
There I am. Good. Thank you. So I appreciate all that, but at the end of the day, I think the net number is important to know. Again, the net number was important to what we first presented to people, and I think I would love to know what that is. I think it's important.
Thank you, Greg. Any other comments? Okay, Angela. Do you have a comment on Dalton?
I am muted. Yes, I do. I live on Pelham Street, but God bless you. You explained all about the NAN vote, so I'm not going to speak on that, but I did want to respond to Mr. Reedman. I've lived on Pelham Street for over 60 years. When we originally got the parking for residents only, the primary reason was because all the commercial spaces were not full. It was empirical data. So just to alleviate his worries, I'm reflecting now the planning department's numbers that they put out last week, or October 16th, I think it was, on the busiest times on weekday afternoons and weekend afternoons, the 3 other lots, which would be Pelham, Pleasant, and Cypress, are only 63% and 44% full. Plugging in the numbers of how many spaces there are, one has 187 spaces during the weekend, weekdays, and the other has 215 spaces available. There are 69 and 120 vacant spots in the other parking lots. So I think there is ample municipal parking that is not being used, and I think Mr. Redmond should factor that in to his comments. And I'm sure Ms. Zach will get him the correct figures, but that's based on the charts that they put out at the last meeting. That's all I had to say about parking.
Okay, so I think that that means that you're advocating to return option 1 for Dalton Road, based on those comments. Any other comments from the public? Okay, so we're on Dalton Road, TC 5625. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd make the motion to return to the original condition for Dalton Road that was existing before the trial.
Okay, so I have a motion made by Mitch. This would be TR 1007 for option 1 on Dalton Road as shown on this slide. To both sides of Dalton Road would be no parking 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. tow zone, except Sundays and holidays as it was before, meaning no parking on the entire street on either side, except after 5 p.m. and on Sundays, and on holidays you could park on both sides. Okay, so that is the motion. Any comments? Seeing none, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Counselor Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, TC 5625 was approved 5-0. Option 1 on TPR 1007.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to go back in order. We're back to TC 6025. Let's go back to that. And this was an item that was, it's going to be handled by the planning department. Is it Zach or I have the slides, either Zach, Nora.
I'll take it.
All right, just tell me when you're ready for me to advance the slides, okay, Zach?
Perfect. Thank you so much. So this specific recommendation, this docket item is another trial, right? And it was included as part of the kind of comprehensive docket item that was NAN previously, that was inclusive of the plaza and the adjacent changes to parking. What we observed here, a few things is, one, I just want to kind of ground us and say this was what the proposal was within the pilot. The recommendation was that Lyman Street, just north of Langley, just north of the Langley parking lot, would be made one way between Center Green and Willow Street and Sumner, two-way between Center Street and Center Green, to allow for that traffic flow. And the current parking, the parking that kind of was there previously, that is on the south side of the street, that are long-term meters, would be removed, and the parking would be put on the north side of the street, given that there are no curb cuts. And that created a lot of efficiencies, right? I think there's about 8 spaces on the south side, and we were getting, I think it was 17 spaces here on the north side. If you go to the next slide, what you see is that this, as part of the pilot, this was never fully realized. The street wasn't made one way. The parking on the south side was essentially removed. The meters were bagged. The parking was moved to the north side. But as you can see, it abuts kind of the aqueduct, the green space where the hill slopes away. For safety reasons, we had recommended striping of a 4-foot buffer between the curb and where that parking would be, so that if you are a passenger, you're not exiting the vehicle like into this kind of hill. And the slope changes depending on where you are. And so two-way, and then again, it was never one-way. So that was the condition. That's been the condition for the last several months. Again, it did increase the parking. People did use it. Through the pilot, it was free 2-hour parking. Next slide. And so again, the recommendation here is to essentially through a trial is to fully realize what was recommended and kind of have it as a standalone item. So striping, allowing for that 4-foot buffer for safety purposes between the curb on the north side and the parking. We'll talk about in the subsequent item related to employee parking, kind of how these spaces would break down. Actually, I think if you go to the next slide, David, we can talk through some of that. Yeah. So the recommendation here throughout the kind of course of this trial is that there'd be employee parking spaces in that the one portion kind of to the west, 7 spaces total, and there'd be 10 public parking spaces further east. These 7 employee parking spaces, and we'll get into more detail about this in the next docket item, are the 12 there. Before the Plaza trial, there were 12 employee spaces in the Langley Road parking lot. Those 12 were moved along center, and this is part of the proposal to kind of redistribute those 12 differently now that that item has been NAN'd. Next slide. And David or Ned, please jump in if I'm saying something incorrect here. But as the recommendation here would be kind of thinking how this would be implemented by DPW, is that these spaces need to be metered. They would be metered through kiosks, given that, as you saw, that hillside is on the north side. You can't put individual meters on that side. And so there'd be parking payment kiosks installed. There's a lead time for that, so they'd be ordered kind of quickly, but they wouldn't come until next year. But in the meantime, we could have set, I think DPW could realize the one-waying of the street, the kind of clear markings that for those parking spaces, and post the 2-hour limit as it is now, which would again be free until those kiosks arrive. Those kiosks arrive in the winter. I think DPW does some work about where those exactly will go. In the interim, before they can be set up as paid spaces, the employee parking spaces would remain on Center Street. And in advance of those kiosks installation, there'd be outreach that was coming, and in the springtime, all that would kind of be updated to be fully realized. I think that's the last slide there for the recommendation of this docket item.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Lipoff.
Well, this is fantastic. I go down there all the time. Citizens Bank is my bank, and there was a time where I was absolutely confused, where the meters weren't bagged. It was two-way traffic going. I was looking, saying, "What is going on here?" The way you laid this out right now, the one-way is going to be fantastic. It's going to allow those spaces to be used and cars to pass. I would like to hear just a little bit more what it's going to be like when you take a left to go to the bank, and it's only two-way in that first little piece. So you're going to have some one-way signs pointing towards you on either side. Is that how you're going to let people know they can't keep on going down the street in the wrong direction? But otherwise, this is a win-win. This is not in a neighborhood. This supports our businesses. It supports our parkers. And I think it's cleverly done. I just want to make sure it's not confusing to the drivers. So if you could give me a little more on that. Just a little bit more. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
I would defer to DPW on that.
Matt, is this something that you're able to speak to?
Sure, yeah, I would say we would want to obviously mark it very clearly. We would have do not enter signs facing the two-way section, right turn only signs, you know, probably like, you know, we try to avoid sign pollution, overwhelming people with signs. This is a case where we would probably go a little bit harder with the signage, as well as pavement markings to try to provide to grab drivers' attention and provide as much guidance as possible. It's something that I would work with our sign crews and our traffic supervisor in, you know, coming up with a specific signage plan. You know, that's very much their bailiwick, and I rely on them for a lot of the specific design on that. But it's again something where we would want to err on the side of you know, really getting drivers' attention.
Thank you, Mr. Codd. That gives me confidence. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments on TC 6025? Mitch.
Yeah, so I had one question and then a comment. So this the space, I'm sorry, the painted space adjacent to the car side getting out, is that flush? Is that I think you said 4 feet, Zachary, it was going to be. Is that when you say painted space, I assume it, you know, it's a concrete pad of some sort as opposed to the dirt that's there now, right?
Well, what do you mean a concrete pad?
In other words, a way for pedestrian, for people getting out of cars to be on a hard
Yeah.
surface.
I can speak to that. That it's part of the road, so it's just painting that section of the paved roadway.
I see. So you're indenting and then you're using the road and you're painting it. I got you. And then the other comment,
If you've been to Breland, I think it would be something similar to Breland, where the spaces are a couple feet away, basically a couple feet away from the curb.
so the curb is on the other side of the painted area. Yeah. So the other question, so these parking lots, and I understand there's a new use coming in Walgreens, which will probably fill up that lot, which is now vacant. And then there's at least one other, I don't know if there's a third lot. I guess what I worry about with the one-way in this kind of situation is that people will sneak out to try to get onto Willow as opposed to, you know, doing a much more detour kind of route if they actually, you know, want to get directly into that area. And I guess the question would be posting no right turn signs at the end of these parking lots. And, you know, no right turn signs don't work that well in the city. I noticed on Needham Street, there's one in the Starbucks area that every other car makes a left turn as opposed to doing a right turn. But something that I think this could be a, you know, a little bit of a hazard if it's not signed right or the curb cuts are not angled right or something, but maybe that's the second steps, given that this is a pilot.
Yeah, I think that's a very good observation. I think it would need to be monitored. We need to make sure people are not turning right out of the lots to get to Willow Street, like you said, or continuing the wrong way down Lyman Street to get into one of the lots, like the new, what the new store that's going into Walgreens. So, right, I think that we're looking for a trial. And with the idea that it would be monitored. Any other comments? All right. So I think the planning department is looking for traffic council to vote to hold this item as well for a long-term trial. Would anyone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay. So we have a motion made by Councilor Lipoff for TC 6025 to hold this item for a long-term trial. Any last comments? Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
and Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that is held 5-0.
Okay. So we're gonna move on. I see that we're joined by Councilor Wright from Ward 3, and we are now going to be on TC 6125. Is this also going to be you, Zach?
Correct.
Okay. Go ahead.
So before the plaza was put into place, there were 12 employee parking spaces included in the Langley lot. These spaces were in addition to the designated employee spaces in Pleasant Street and the Cypress Street lots, which did not change as part of this process. The recommendation as part of the pilot was we want, as Mr. Reedman was kind of saying, is to make sure that there is the most public parking spaces within the lot possible. And given that we were taking some of those spaces for the plaza, we wanted to find ways that if we wanted to move these employee spaces further out so that these would be opened up for customers again. And that's what was done. If you go to the next slide, those spaces were moved onto Center Street on both sides of Center Street. They were broken up. And what we observed throughout the course over these last few months is that employees never park there. The Pleasant Street spaces, the Cypress Street parking lot spaces, those were all heavily utilized, and these were not. Next slide. Given that, and given that the plaza will continue as a pilot through next fall, and that we want to make sure again that the most visible spaces are maintained for customers. Given our conversations with business owners throughout Newton Center, I guess to Lisa Gordon's comment, we did go to all these businesses. We spoke with businesses directly. We emailed businesses directly. We heard from a lot of people over the last year, basically since we kind of launched this project. What we heard from those businesses is requesting more employee spaces, and what this essentially would do is to say those 12 spaces that pre-pilot were in the Langley lot would be broken up and added to by one. There'd be 7 employee spaces proposed on Lyman Street. And then there would be 6 proposed the meters on Brayland at the corner of Langley Road. There's 6 meters there, and then the rest of the Brayland of Brayland Street is returning back to what it was previously. So 12 spaces, 12 employee spaces go to 13 spaces. They're more distributed. They're a little bit more centrally located than they were on Center Street. and they get to be taken advantage of by hopefully, businesses on Union Street, or closer to the south side of Newton Center, and then other businesses that again are on the north side can benefit more from Lyman Street. And in addition, I know we'll be hearing the item about Center Street next, is that those spaces that are currently employee only would revert to long-term spaces. So essentially, they are de facto, they could be used as de facto employee spaces. They're just not reserved in the same way that these ones would be. So the availability to employees, the parking would greatly increase as a whole through the variety of items that were being discussed here. And I think this is the last slide for this one.
All right, thank you, Zach. I just have one quick question, which I don't think I know the answer to this question. So the 12 employee spaces on Center Street, is the idea, if this is voted held as a trial, that the 6 employee spaces on Brayland would move immediately, taking 6 spaces away from Center Street, and then the 7 on Lyman would move once the kiosk comes? Or is the idea to wait for the kiosks to arrive and then move them all at the same time? Or I guess it's a trial, so we don't have to decide that right this minute. But did you have any thoughts about that at this point?
The former is our recommendation, is that the 6 would move as soon as possible to Brayland, and then when possible, when Lyman Street was ready, the 7 would move.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. And so the planning department staff is looking again for traffic council to hold this item as a long-term trial. Oh, and one thing that was never mentioned was the zip car spaces would be moved back into the Langley lot, right, as part of the trial that we had approved earlier tonight. Okay. Any comments on this item, TC 6125? Anyone like to make a motion to hold this item as a long-term trial?
Sure.
Okay, so motion was made by Councilor Lipoff to hold TC 6125 for a long-term trial. Any last comments? Seeing none, Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
and Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's held 5-0.
Excellent. Thank you. Dalton Road, we already discussed. So our next item is Center Street. Okay. So here is the location of new parking meters that were added as part of the trial from February, the TC 825 on Center Street in 2 different parts of Center Street. So 2 new spaces were added on the southbound side, as shown in this photo. They've been reserved, their signs, they're long-term meters, but the signs are there that reserve these spaces for employee permit parking only, Monday through Friday. And then these 3 spaces were added on the northbound side by Delaria. And then we also have these existing spaces that have been there, for a long time. These are not new meters, but they have been reserved for employee parking. So the recommendation is all we need to do is vote to add these meters. We don't want to pull these meters out just because we NAN that item. TC 825, we want to obviously keep the meters in place, the long-term meters available. So all we need to do is vote to add these meters into our traffic and parking regulations with this language shown on slide 52. So I would like to make that motion to approve. This would be TPR 1008, I think. Yeah, 1008. As shown. So comments, Jesse.
So the reason I am commenting on on this request just because on the southbound side of Center Street, where there are just 2 parking spaces, I would like to see more parking spaces added on that southbound side of Center Street up to the curb cut for the driveway that has the do not enter authorized vehicles only sign as like a traffic calming measure, and to make sure that there's more parking in the area, because there is space for parking. And I would also like to see the new bike lanes that were just painted on this part of Center Street be extended up to about Lyman Street.
Okay, thank you, Josie. I think that these 2 spaces were selected because on one side interfered with a bus stop, I believe, and the other side, I think that there were concerns about traffic flow. But thank you for those comments. And Councilor Lipoff.
I just, I'll move this, but I think you already did. And I just wanted to say hello to Jesse and let him know that my daughter just texted me, and Jenny says, hi, Jesse. It's good to see you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so we have this motion, which I made, and I don't see any other comments. So Danielle, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kosis.
Aye.
Captain Devine.
Aye.
Mr. Cod.
Aye.
Mr. Fishman.
Aye.
Councilor Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved 5-0 TPR 1008.
Okay, great. Then our last item is TC 5825, which I have not read into the record yet. It's Ned Codd, Director of DPW Transportation Division, requesting to eliminate the left turn prohibition from Beacon Street eastbound into the Langley Road Municipal Parking Lot. And here is the slide that I have. This is Beacon Street, Center Street and Beacon Street, and the left turn into the lot. We've had a prohibition, no left turn into the parking lot, and this item is requesting to remove that sign so that left turns are allowed. And of course, we have the appeal period. So that is the presentation. Any comments? Nancy Honig and Lisa Gordon? Okay, again, some ability to.
Okay, thank you. Could I start? I have something to say about this, but first I just wanted to know if there were any studies, any research that was done to bring somebody to this proposal.
This is based on the fact that this is something that we have observed people doing frequently, and it's really only crossing a single lane of traffic, and there is frequently a standing queue there. So there's a little bit of an issue with a conflict there, but it's generally pretty low speed. It's not something that has caused a problem. It's not inconsistent with turns that are allowed in other parts of the city. Pretty much anywhere it is, it's not something that in my engineering judgment represents a safety risk.
So here's the thing with this. I live right near there, and I'm in that area daily, and the traffic has gotten really bad coming both north and south on Beacon Street. And with the crosswalk that's just beyond where this picture's taken, I would have said that we actually need bigger signs stopping people from going left into it and going well, what you're proposing taking away. Because I witnessed on numerous occasions the fact that people are doing that, it causes a big backup because there's only one line of traffic that's heading east where that red car is. And if someone's trying to turn left in there, especially when there's high traffic, it backs all the way up through the light. It backs that crosswalk up, which then becomes really dangerous. And the same can be true going the other way. I mean, it's interesting because I talked to Barney Heath and I had suggested when they were repaving it that perhaps that should just be an exit to go one way, and that you try to direct some people to go out onto Langley Road. But I actually think what you're proposing is going to cause a lot more traffic and will be more dangerous rather than less. So I think the signage needs to be bigger and more clear. And I guess if you want to take it away and you want to leave it that way, then I would consider maybe putting those stripy things so people aren't blocking that intersection if you want people to make those lefts, because the issue turns up with people waiting to go in and nobody letting them in. So I just don't think it's a great idea. I'm also kind of curious why the signs were all removed before this item was being heard. Because shouldn't the signs have stayed until after a vote was taken? So I'll leave my comments there for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Councillor Maliki.
Yes, I had I had the same question to start with that Councillor Gordon finished with. Why are the signs gone? The sign is gone for no left turn into that lot, and then the sign is gone for no left turn out of that lot that used to be there on the pole. I noticed that recently when I was there on a Saturday, noon standout for the No Kings standouts. And I actually observed the kind of backup that was just described, where somebody trying to make that left turn into the lot was clogging up the whole street between there and the intersection. So I would have left well enough alone here. I don't see any reason to have changed this.
Thank you, Councillor Maliki. We have Kia Freeman.
I'm sorry, I don't know why my hand was up. That was a mistake, sorry.
It's okay, no problem. Mitch.
Yeah, some of the prior questions were my questions. I was thinking if you're going to do a left turn there, maybe you ought to get rid of the meters right there so that it doesn't cause a backup and people can actually go around. I think there's 2 or 3 meters in front of the bank there. But the other question I have is, people come out of that lot in different ways. They should do the crosswalk across from the bank, but they don't always do that. And particularly where if they're walking on the edge of the curb cut, they'll try to cross at that point. I guess I don't get it. I mean, I always thought a double line meant you couldn't cross it, but I guess you'd have to break the double line.
The double yellow, right. Thank you, Mitch. Councillor Lipoff.
Yeah, I'm a little I'm a little confused here, going both ways. We all use this. There have been times when I'm driving down there and there's no traffic coming up Beacon, and I am looking at going left and the sign's there and I'm feeling all guilty. I got to keep on going straight, but no cars are there and I'll take the left. So I understand where Mr. Codd is coming from, saying, geez, it's not really necessary. What Mitch Fishman just said is pretty interesting, because if you got rid of the parking there, which we don't want to get rid of any parking, they could go by. So I don't think we do that. I think what we have to do is really pay attention to this. What we do in traffic can always be redone if things change. So the sign's already gone. We just better make sure if cars back up into that intersection at Beacon and Center because of this, that's a real problem. And when I grew up with this sign, it was always, well, I get it because we don't want traffic backing up into the intersection. So I have faith in Mr. Cod and Mr. Kozis to understand that that if they think this is reasonable, I guess we should give it a shot. As Mr. Cod said, half the people don't pay attention to it anyways and take that left in there. So I know I haven't helped in any way. I'm kind of showing two things can be true at the same time. And I think it's something we need to pay attention if we put this into motion.
So I'm almost hearing a thought that maybe this could be done as a trial so that we could monitor it. The sign's already gone. A trial would mean, that it could, officially be removed while we monitor it and sort of revisit it. That's one option that we could consider. Either voting to approve it, to deny it, or hold this as a trial. Let's see, we haven't heard yet from Mary Lee Belleville. Do you want to unmute?
Thanks, Mary Lee Belleville, 136 Warren Street. I'm just kind of curious, how would you monitor it?
Well, I think the way to monitor it is to watch and see what happens if there's a backup, if there's any difficulty in the intersection. I don't know
But
if the other
who would
monitoring.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ned has any other ideas for how it could be monitored?
And just who would watch and how would the data be collected other than anecdotally?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, city staff can monitor. I mean, we would, we in terms of data, we would watch if there were any crashes at that location. That would be a very bad outcome. In terms of conducting observations, I mean, it's anecdotal, but it's, that is, something that we do in addition to collecting quantitative data. We do conduct observations of traffic behavior, all the time, and that informs our decision making.
Thank you. Lisa? Still problems unmuting, I see.
Hi, there must be some setting that says you're not allowed to unmute yourself. So I would just go back if we're going to talk about anecdotally. I will say, Councilor Lipoff, I was grinning. I grew up in Newton Center and I live in Newton Center. I moved back here. I've been here for the last 25 years. And I will say I never take a left turn into the lot when I'm heading from my mother's house, needing to go to Newton Center for some reason. I would just like to really strongly urge anyone who's thinking about not putting the signs back, that I would rather see the signs back and having a study done so that you could see the people who are turning illegally. And it is true, I agree that people turn left there even though they're not supposed to. But if we're actually going to invite them to do that, I think it will make it even worse. And as I said, I am in this area, I live just down Langley Street, heading from Newton Center towards Route 9. So this whole block, this whole area, all these intersections between Beacon and Langley and Beacon and Center, I spend a lot of time with. I walk daily. And the traffic is really, really backed up and people are speeding and they see the red, they see the green light and they don't want to stop for the pedestrians who want them to stop. There is so much going on here. I would really just heavily urge you to put the signs back and then do your study to see what the impact is when people are turning illegally left. I'd be happy to go and spend time, with a camera showing what happens when this happens, when people take the left. I just think it's not a great plan. And again, I also still don't understand why the signs were removed prior to this discussion. Thank you.
Angela?
Yeah, I didn't hear an answer to how the signs got removed. Who decided to have them removed?
I believe that they were removed in error in advance of this being docketed.
So, like, how did that happen?
I believe it was a failure of communication between myself and one of our field supervisors.
Because I mean, that took some time to go out, and I think they saw off the pole that the one on the left side was on, and I think the one as you come out of the lot facing you, I think that's on something that I forget what, I have a picture in my phone, I don't have it handy. I think that was onto something pre-existing. But I just find it incredible that this could happen before permission is granted to do it, and then the idea that, oh, it's already gone anyway, so let's leave it gone. That's not how things are supposed to work.
Right, thank you, Councilor Maliki. Let's move on to Mitch.
Yeah, so that is a speedway, and if you can see from this, all the parking along the left side, I think it has a 4 to 6 prohibition, if I remember correctly. So of course there are times between maybe 5 and 6:30 when it's back to back. And then breaking into the traffic to take a left is one issue. But I think the other problem, that let's say that red car, finally gets through and the other cars back up. As soon as the car gets into the driveway, into the parking lot, the cars start to speed up because they got slowed down. And what's the next point they have is the crosswalk, which is in the foreground of this photograph. And I think that left turn, in my view, would become a distraction for drivers that maybe wouldn't see people in the crosswalk if that was the secondary thing that they're looking at. And again, I sort of don't get it, why, coming out on Langley and coming, mostly a lot of people come out. I mean, Langley Road coming out, maybe that's a problem and everything should come out here. But the left turn into it, I just don't understand the need at this point.
Thank you, Mitch. Angela, you still have your hand up. Do you have another comment, or is that from before?
Yes, am I all set?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I live within walking distance of this intersection, and I can tell you it is heavily trafficked. I would say from 11 o'clock to 1:30. I don't even try to drive by there anymore. If I have to go someplace, I'll walk. I think it would be very dangerous. It would be a traffic hazard because people do not allow you to take left-hand turns. When I'm coming from Center Street trying to make a left-hand turn onto Pelham, I hold up traffic because very few people will let me turn. It just doesn't happen that frequently, and I don't think this is a well-advised change at all. I think you're going to find it's going to disrupt traffic.
Thank you. Thank you all for the comments. Now we're going to bring it back to the committee or counselors. Would anyone, what comments do we have? Anyone want to make any motion to approve, to deny, to hold this as a trial? What are we doing? Mitch?
I mean, it's either a deny or a trial, and I guess I'm willing to vote for a trial, but my inclination is to deny at this point. I don't know if other members have different points of view.
Other comments? Councilor Lipoff.
I would be open to a trial, given the fact that even though there was a no enter sign, as Mr. Cod has observed, people have broken the law and done it. And his estimation was that it was not causing a backup or issues. I don't fully believe that's true, but I can be convinced. So I would make a motion now. With the sign being down, we could do a trial right now, and Mr. Cod's staff could go out at different times and observe if there's ever any backup at the highest traffic times into the intersection.
Okay, very good. So we have a motion for this item to hold this item as a trial. Any last comments? Danielle, can you call the roll for a trial?
Mr. Kosis,
Aye.
Mr. Cod,
Aye.
Mr. Fishman,
Aye.
Captain Devine,
Aye.
Council Lipoff.
Aye.
Okay, that's held 5-0.
All right, and that is our last item. Thank you all for coming to the meeting. And our next meeting will be December 11th. Thanks again. Have a good night.